Okay, I need your attention. The tech regulations are changing. There's a risk some of our hard work will be undone, so we need to mitigate it. As soon as you can, I want you to look at the developments we have and tell us what areas you want to invest in protecting.
done. That was a fantastic drive. With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves once again of our top three: Duke, Verstappen and Valtteri. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Duke lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Russell, Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn one?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn one as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
This is the team's home race. We're all relying on you to impress today. That's P1. Russell behind. Our gap behind is 4.8 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Pit strategy complete. See these tyres through to the end now. 4 laps remaining.
behind is 16.6 seconds. Okay, this is your final lap of the race. You're in first position, front of the pack. Okay, the gap behind is 10.5 seconds.
We did it! We did it!
And that is 10 race wins. Unbelievable. That's the most consecutive wins by any driver in Formula One.
Not just victory today then, but the championship as well. What a spectacular season they've had. Congratulations to the whole team. What do you think it was today, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari do it again. Well, after an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Yuki Tsunoda gets my vote today.
The Constructors' Championship may be a foregone conclusion at the moment, but regardless, let's look at the standings. So then, Ferrari have now moved out of sight and out of reach. It's another triumph for the Italian team as they claim the World Constructors' Championship. There was also a strong showing from the Mercedes team today as they make their way up the standings. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Okay, we've had the new parts come through the fabrication process. We'll have them with us for the next Grand Prix. The marketing department needs some assistance to reach a resolution here. Thanks for stepping in and helping handle that. A reporter has asked to interview you. Thanks for handling that.
You're not currently in a rivalry. Sooner or later, you'll probably be asked by the media who you consider to be your rival. Think carefully who you select, as while you will receive acclaim for beating them, you'll lose acclaim if you fail to do so.
Our new parts have completed without issue. They'll be on the car ready for the next race weekend.
going to be logging some extra data during this session. Nothing you need to worry about, but as we have some new parts on the car, we'll just confirm they're performing to spec. Let's get a few laps under our belt. It's Perez ahead of you. Confirmed, we'll receive you at the end of this lap.
It's time to remind ourselves of our top three, who are Fernando Alonso,
Very pleased with that.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who'll be fronting the grid. Duke, Perez. Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Duke lines up on pole position. Sergio Perez...
After the... Okay, we're monitoring somewhere on the internal combustion engine. Be aware that we're going to start to see a loss of power. DRS will be enabled this lap. You can use it when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. You're leading the pack, that's P1. Perez is behind you, and the gap behind us is 11.0 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Okay, this is your final lap of the race. Okay, we're reaching a danger point with the wear on the MGU-H. Overheating the engine will exacerbate the issue, so keep temps under control, please.
We did it! We did it!
Yes, that's a podium. Excellent drive. The team have worked especially hard this weekend, and this is a fantastic reward.
So then, Ferrari have now moved out of sight and out of reach. It's another triumph for the Italian team as they claim the World Constructors' Championship. Welcome along then to where heroes and history are made. It's where the 2008 title was decided in the very final corner. And just 1 year later, Jenson Button stormed through from 14th on the grid to claim his one and only Drivers' Championship. It's time then for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Interlagos, always a very special race here in Brazil. It's a 2.7-mile circuit with 9 lefts and 6 rights for a total of 15 corners. The fastest lap today should have an average speed of around 135 miles per hour, if, of course, the weather stays dry until the end of the Grand Prix. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Duke lines up on pole position, edging out Sergio Perez, who lines up P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Hamilton. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box. Ant, it's fantastic to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1. A bit like preparing.
Okay, we've already won the championship, so just relax and go and enjoy this race. You deserve it. Okay, we're monitoring some wear on the internal combustion engine. Be aware that we're going to start to see a loss of power. Okay, we're reaching a danger point with the wear on the MGU-H. Overheating the engine will exacerbate the issue, so keep temps under control, please. Start was fine, let's try and move forward. That's Russell just ahead. Push for the position. They're on fresh softs. Perez behind. Okay, so the gap to the car behind is 1.2 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Look after these tyres now. You want to finish the race on this compound. Come on, just 3 laps to go. 3 laps. Fastest lap of the race. Keep this up. Well done. Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 7.2 seconds. Our gap behind is 3.9 seconds. Turbochargers on its last legs. Let's try to keep mileage on it to a minimum. Good job. That was the fastest lap of the race so far. Race win! That is the race win! You've been amazing today, mate. You deserve that. Well done.
It's been a roller coaster season, but they can go into the winter with their heads held high after an emphatic victory here today. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today and the results speak for themselves.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to the Duke. They did a great job at getting the most out of their tyres without losing pace, something that's a very handy skill to have in modern-day Formula One.
So then, Ferrari have now moved out of sight and out of reach. It's another triumph for the Italian team as they claim the World Constructors' Championship. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. Well, what an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
The marketing department has requested your input on this one. The department wants me to pass on their thanks for helping out. Okay, we've had the new parts come through the fabrication process. We'll have them with us for the next Grand Prix.
Here you can make salary demands to the team. Any extra over your base salary will go into your perk fund. The more you demand, the lower the chances of our success. Do make sure that you don't go demanding anything unrealistic for your acclaim level. If you do, the team might refuse to negotiate any more with you in this negotiation period. Here's where you can buy perks to become a better driver both on and off the track. Any fee you negotiate over your base salary in the contract negotiation is cash you can spend on these perks.
Great, that's everything we need. You can go back and edit anything we've done so far, and we'll come back here at the start of each season. Or if you're ready to go, hit advance to head to Team HQ, and we can start our push to the top. Our new parts have completed without issue. They'll be on the car ready for... All right, welcome to the new season. I think we've done a pretty good job protecting our development gains through the regs change, so the car should be pretty decent. But get out there and let us know how it feels.
With qualifying complete, let's review our top three today. Duke, Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix. Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round one of this year's Formula One World Championship. We go racing today around the 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit with 15 corners and 2 good passing opportunities into turns 1 and 4. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left tyre into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Duke lines up on pole position and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Russell and Sir Lewis Hamilton and Perez, Norris, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, Vettel, Stroll, Alex Albon and Gasly. Mick Schumacher, Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda and Guan Yu Zhou. Oscar Piastri and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as once again we get another year of Formula One underway.
We're into those tense few minutes before the first race then. Everyone's a little bit nervous about reliability. They haven't been running in the hot, turbulent wake of other cars in practice. They've not been pushing at 100% for long durations. Let's hope no one has to deal with any nasty surprises.
First race of the season and you're on pole. Let's bring home a win today. we've been given a time penalty. It will go against our finishing time at the end of the race. Get your head down and let's get it done. That's a new fastest lap of the race. done. Front of the pack. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Okay, the gap behind is 15.9 seconds. They're on fresh softs. Okay, this is your final lap of the race.
That's a fantastic team effort then to secure victory here in the desert. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today and a stunning win for Ferrari. Let's have a look then at the drivers' standings. Duke takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Now, let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for Driver of the Day?
There's a few contenders, but George Russell definitely stood out, I think. A really solid drive from him today, and one I'm sure the fans enjoyed.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes move to the top of the table. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One, so be sure to join us for the next one.
An upcoming news article has a question they'd like your input on. Thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to help out.
Welcome to one of this year's most challenging races, where the combination of high speed and complex corners makes this one of the drivers' favourite tracks. It's time for the Japanese Grand Prix. A lap of this historic racetrack covers 3.6 miles. It's the only time during the season that we race on a figure-of-8 circuit. And the drivers can expect some intense G-forces through the 18 corners on offer here as they experience some of the highest average apex speeds on the Formula One calendar. Keep an eye out for overtakes into the final chicane. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Sergio Perez will lead us away from... After a fantastic qualifying year, let's... Welcome to Monza, where the crowd are ready for today's action, and we hope you're ready to see the world's best drivers fighting it out for that #1 spot. It's time for the Italian Grand Prix. We're 12 miles northeast of Milan for today's Grand Prix at a Monza circuit where we can expect top speeds of around 215 miles per hour. 11 corners on this 3.6-mile track, with 7 of those coming in the form of chicanes. And with a good slipstream and DRS open, there should be plenty of opportunity for some passing here today. So with the race not far away from starting,
Understood. Stopping this lap.
And away we go, and that was a very nice stop. No problems, very smooth for Sainz.
You only have to stop once now. One stop left.